I don't know if I can do this with one hand. Let's see. There we go. So that's just to keep this from going underneath the sled when you're sledding down the hill. That's always a hassle. All right, this is what you push against. This is strong material so it doesn't break. Easy to adjust the length right here. Got some metal, I have to look up the name of these kind of buckles. Sewed that with, I think, nylon thread. The bungee keeps this on your boot. And I don't have it super tight on here because my boots are pretty big, but you can adjust this. I can always tighten it up by tying a different knot. So here I'm using a bowline to connect the paracord to this loop. So this is one loop by itself that's permanently sewn and attached to the buckle. This is just threaded through the buckle. It's sewn on here, so it's permanently attached to the stirrup. This is the stop, and you can see, if I had two hands, I might make a separate video and stick it in here showing you how you could insert this. But the purpose of this is so that if I pull this back, you can see it stops it. And that keeps the paddle from going up too high and hitting this one. You can also adjust it if you don't want it to have to go so far to engage with the snow. Right now you can see I've got it set so it's not really going to hit the snow until it gets to about right there. I could use the stop here so that this thing only pulls back and it's here at rest position. So I push, it only has to go that far. But I kind of like it up in the middle, well out of the snow. I don't know that it really makes a big difference. The seat is just really nice. Without the seat, you kind of still have to have a platform and it cuts into your back. And folding seat, if you wanted to stack a couple of these, I think it stores a little better. If you want to take this off, I'll take it off in a minute. I think it stores more compactly. These bungees hold the seat back, and they also keep the cams, they return the cams to their rest position. I fussed around a little bit with the way I attached the way that I attached the hinge. I have found that this part broke on me once. So I've got this bolted in. That part has been pretty good just with screws. You can see in a lot of places I'd screw through with drywall screws and then I just cut them off and I grind them down with a flap disc on the other side. So this is holding the seatbelt in. I melted a hole in this underneath here. I don't know if you can see it. Yep, there's a fender washer holding that in place. That's permanent. This is there are 3 of these wing nuts that release the whole thing from the sled. I've got one of my sons doesn't like the sled or doesn't like the controllers in some conditions, so can take it off really easily. There's the homemade washer, a really big washer to keep it from pulling through the plastic. I didn't want it to destroy. I thought maybe it would rip through the plastic if I just used a regular washer. So here are the 3 wing nuts that hold it on. One there, one over there. I've used lock nuts in a few places. The nice thing about the lock nut, so on this bolt, it's just snugged way into the wood on the other side, so it's flush. I pulled it in really deep. And then on this side, I've got a regular washer just to hold the bolt in place. And then I put the swivel pulley on top of that. And the lock nut will stay in place and not come off and give me a little room there. So I don't have to tighten it up to get it to stay in place. Again, this is paracord. The paracord just goes across here and goes through a little hole. See it over here. Comes under the bottom. And generally, as I pull this. I've got it set up so there's not a lot of interference and not a lot of wear. It's rubbing a little bit right here. I don't know if I should do anything about that. I haven't had problems with that. What next? Oh, I guess the paddles. Tried a lot of things. I've had thin plywood here that's broken. This thick plywood's pretty good. I could do metal, but I think if somebody came from behind and ran into this, the metal would be dangerous. So I like the fact that it's wood, it's less dangerous. I do have a few little pointy things on here. Speaking of danger, I don't know if I was super worried about that. I could cover those up somehow. The bent electrical metal, or what's it called? EMT. It's something metal tubing, electrical metal tubing, something like that. Is great. It's hard to bend to a particular shape, but if you're careful, you can bend it. You could always make this out of wood. I've made these out of wood. You could weld them, but these are pretty light. These cams, my younger son says they look like lemons, which they do. I don't think there's anything really magical about these. I have them set up so that you can see if you look down at this little hole, if this is the clock, this is at 9 o'clock, and this is somewhere like, I don't know, a little before 3, 2:30, 2:45. That gives me, when the string pulls across like that, you can see the lever arm is this long right in the beginning. So I don't get a lot of torque, but by the time it's shifted into this position where I'm doing maximum braking, now my lever arm is this long and I get a lot more torque. But of course, I have to push a greater distance to get it to move at that point. So in the very beginning, I don't have to pull this string very far to get this to engage. The distances I think I've included. There are probably a lot of different ways you could do this to optimize it. Let's see, what else? Oh, the drywall screws. I just screw these things right through the conduit. I don't drill, I just push really hard with an impact driver and it goes through the conduit, through the wood, and then I just grind off on the other side. It's a pretty slick method. Here's another use of lock nuts. You can see this fender washer is kind of loose under here. This whole thing needs to be able to move back and forth. I was real worried at first about how I was going to have this kind of an axle and what was going to prevent this from lifting up and down. But there's a lot of surface here, touching a lot of surface underneath, and that keeps everything moving, and there's not too much friction because of that lock nut just not being really tight and allowing this to slide back and forth. I could do some sanding underneath, but it kind of sands itself over time. I guess the next thing to do is just to disassemble it and reassemble it and see how long that takes. All right, let's see how long disassembly takes. Probably do this. I've just got these 3 wing nuts. And all I've done is hand tighten them. Where did I put my other wing nut? Don't mislay your wing nuts. Just put them in my pocket. And got those washers on the back. I'm afraid they're just going to fall right out. Hear them falling out. This one's stuck in. One over here is stuck in. All right. You can see there I drilled 2 holes because the first one was too close to my other bolt. And the wing nut was hitting. disfigured my sled. I'm looking through there and I see the hole. It doesn't look like it lines up. Oh, I could just kind of push it. It's a plastic sled. Pushes. I'm done. Put the seatbelt on. And just for good measure, I'll hook this on. Let's see. That one's acting a little weak. All I have to do to make it stronger is to move this knot a little bit closer. But I don't want it to be so strong that I have to work really hard to fight it. All done.